Sorry, not a fan of getting electrocuted. It really hurts. It really hurts. It really hurts. It really hurts. It really hurts.
Several bad Hertz puns later.
It really hurts.
All right, I get it! I mean, come inside, make yourself at home.
So, Hertz. By definition, they are similar to frames per second in that they deal with frames per second being rendered at a given point in time. However, Hertz more so refers to the refresh rate of displays. For example, a 30 or 60 FPS signal can handle a 60 Hz display with no problems whatsoever. However, going beyond that refresh rate with any amount of higher frame rate will cause some side effects to start popping up. The most notable of which is screen tearing, where it has an almost interlaced-esque effect where a new frame is being rendered on top of a previous frame. To combat screen tearing, a variety of sync-based technologies have been introduced to curb this issue when it started to become a thing in the early 2000s. Things such as FreeSync, Adaptive Sync, and G-Sync all come with their own bells and whistles. However, their purpose is to make sure that when the frames are being processed, that the display would be ready to render the frames being sent to it, as a display on its own can't update the frames instantly. For even a display to be ready to render a clip without any kind of sync tech would take 5 milliseconds with input to render a frame or even part of that frame, as even with the frame being ready, the display isn't. And of course, playing a 200 frames per second game on a 60 Hz monitor isn't going to look as smooth as if you were playing on a monitor that could handle said Hertz values. With that said, some gamers will still play their games in 200 FPS mode without the sync technology, so as to take advantage of the faster response times from the lack of sync tech and higher frame rates. With that said, there is sync tech out there such as fast sync and enhanced sync in an effort to make sure that the millisecond performance is more similar to the sync tech being off, but without the screen tearing. On a final note, do you know of the displays out there that have the least amount of input delay?
I was actually struggling a lot. So this entire time I had been, okay. The next thing that I do is go to AGDQ 2017. And this whole time, from me learning the game to this point, I had been playing. I didn't know this was a big deal. I had been playing on some old, ratty HD TV on a PlayStation 2, right? I go to GDQ and there's all these CRTs. I plug in my PlayStation 2, right? And it's like, I'm just playing, right? And then I PB by a little bit. Just on a random setup, and I haven't played in a few days. And I'm like, well, that run was bad. How did I PB by like 3 seconds? What it was is I didn't realize that I was playing with a ton of input delay.
Having acquired a CRT, time was melting off Jazz's runs left and right.
That honor actually goes to the good old-fashioned CRTs. If I had to guess why, it might have something to do with the CRTs being made exclusively in mind with old analog signals, where this older era of television was made to have these old displays match perfectly with the programs going through them. This, by extension, seems to affect consoles with native analog outputs, as playing them on modern displays seems to introduce just a little more input lag. Console games have an interesting relationship when it comes to TVs. Because in some hands, these consoles were designed to comply with the resolutions that TVs were capable of putting out at the time, but at the same time they would often feature enhancements that wouldn't be seen on TV broadcasts, such as the higher frame rates when compared to television broadcasts, because the signal is coming directly out of the console itself. But we'll be talking about the differences in television in a later mission.
Oh, look at that time, gotta go quick! Bang!